Look, building an app used to take months, right? Endless lines of code, late nights. Today, with AI, you can literally whip something up in a weekend. But actually getting people to use it? Yeah, that is still incredibly hard. Welcome to Days Explainer. We are diving into something that honestly feels a little bit like magic. We're talking about taking an app you just generated with AI and instantly plugging it into an ecosystem of millions of users who are just ready to go. Today, we're looking at a massive update from Pi Network. It essentially acts as a distribution cheat code for creators. We're exploring exactly what happens when vibe coding meets Pi App Studio.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about vibe coding. If you haven't heard this term yet, it's absolutely brilliant. It's all about turning your ideas into functioning apps using AI-assisted tools with literally zero computer science degree required. Whether you're a hardcore developer or just someone who woke up with a cool idea, you can use platforms like Claude, Cursor, or Lovable to just explain the vibe of what you want. You talk to it, and the AI writes the code. You're generating actual working software using plain English. It is exhilarating. But as amazing as this whole vibe coding thing is, it kind of created a brand new problem.
And that's because this incredible speed has completely shifted the bottleneck. Think about it. The barrier to entry for building an app, it has plummeted. It's basically on the floor. But the barrier to actually getting users, that is still astronomically high. The market is just saturated. I mean, there are more people making tools and apps right now than ever before in human history. So building the product is really only half the battle. If you don't have access to real users, or a way to take payments, or a community to actually discover your app, well, your brilliant AI-coded project is just going to sit on a server somewhere collecting digital dust. And nobody wants that.
Which brings us to a genuinely staggering number, 60 million plus. And this right here is the solution to that massive distribution problem. Pi Network currently has a user base of over 60 million engaged pioneers. And let me be clear, these are not bots. These are real people, and many of them are KYC verified, meaning their identities are officially confirmed. Just imagine taking that app you just vibe coded this weekend and suddenly having a potential audience of 60 million people already active in a digital ecosystem, hungry for new things to use. That's a level of distribution that startup founders literally spend millions in venture capital trying to achieve, and Pi Network is just opening the doors to it.
So you might be wondering, how do you actually connect your shiny new AI app to those 60 million people? Well, think of Pi App Studio as your bridge. It takes the app you created somewhere else and brings it directly into this live, buzzing utility ecosystem. What's super cool here is that Pi App Studio is expanding support for creators who might not even be part of the Pi community yet. So if you're out there messing around with different AI tools and you're desperately looking for a place to actually launch your product, Pi App Studio is built to seamlessly convert those externally created apps into official Pi apps.
Okay, so how hard is it to cross this bridge? Honestly, it's a completely frictionless four-step process. First, you build your app externally, just like you normally would. Second, and this is the clever part, Pi provides you with these tailored copy and paste prompts. You just feed those prompts right back into your AI, and it automatically handles step 3, integrating Pi's SDK. This basically plugs in all their pre-built back-end tools and payments without you having to write a single line of that integration code. Finally, step 4, you reach mainnet, which is the live public network where actual transactions happen. Because you use those tailored prompts, your app follows all of Pi Network's developer guidelines right out of the gate. It's that simple.
To really ground this in reality, the recent Pi Network update shared a pretty awesome micro case study using a classic game of Connect 4. So imagine you vibe coded a basic playable Connect 4 game. Traditionally, if you wanted to add payments or user authentication to a finished game like that, you'd have to tear your code apart and suffer through a really frustrating manual rebuild. It's a headache. But with Pi App Studio, you literally just drop in their tailored AI prompts. The AI reads your Connect 4 code, implements the Pi SDK, and boom! Suddenly your standalone game is a fully integrated Pi app. No manual rebuilding required whatsoever.
And get this, how long do you think this copy-paste integration actually takes? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Depending on the AI platform you're using and, the complexity of your app's codebase, you can bridge your app into an ecosystem of 60 million users in the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee. Because all the Pi ecosystem compliance is already baked right into those AI prompts, it doesn't just save you hours of development time, it potentially shortens the entire process of getting your app approved for the live network. It's a real game changer.
Now, having massive distribution is absolutely amazing, but what about all that expensive back-end plumbing you usually have to build just to run an online business? Well, when you bridge your app to Pi, you aren't just getting users, you're inheriting their entire built-in infrastructure. We are talking Pi sign-in, so you can entirely bypass building your own user authentication. You get instant integration with Pi wallets, identity verification,
access to the Pi ad network for monetization, and built-in payment capabilities. Honestly, building all those systems from scratch is exhausting. Instead, Pi Network essentially acts as decentralized human infrastructure, just handing you the whole shebang ready to use.
Of course, with great distribution comes a real need for quality control, right? To actually get access to live mainnet payments, which, let's be real, is where you monetize your app, your creation has to meet some specific requirements to keep the ecosystem safe and healthy. Your app needs to demonstrate real utility, exhibit safe behavior, and run stably without constantly crashing. And importantly, it needs to have a legitimate Pi-denominated use case. Basically, Pi Network wants to expand with genuinely useful tools, not just a bunch of spam. So while the integration is insanely fast, the product itself still has to offer real value to the pioneers.
You know, the larger vision behind this whole update is perfectly captured in a quote from the source material. It says, Pi is providing answers to what individual economic participation can be in the AI era. Stop and think about that for a second. The AI era is completely changing who gets to build software. But if giant corporations just monopolize all the distribution, individual creators are still going to be left out in the cold. By combining vibe coding with Pi App Studio, Pi Network is empowering anyone, literally anyone with an idea and an AI tool, to own a complete online business. It's really about giving everyday individuals a real seat at the economic table.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Now that distribution is solved, what are you going to build? Seriously, the excuses are totally gone. You don't need a massive marketing budget, and you definitely don't need a computer science degree. If you're a vibe coder, or maybe you know someone who's generating amazing apps with AI, but just struggling to find an audience, head over to Pi App Studio today. You can access it right through the Pi browser or the Pi Node desktop app and start converting those creations into Pi apps. Go tap into a community of 60 million people. The tools are right there waiting for you. Thanks for joining me today, and I honestly cannot wait to see what you create.